Hello, hello everyone. Welcome to our March Bark Call. Hope everyone is doing well. Happy Passover, happy Easter for everybody coming up. I'm Zina Marati and I'm joined with Karen Mecanini from ARF. And before I introduce our special guests tonight, I just want to make a couple of quick announcements. There was a question last time around the progress of the new shorefront dog park, as our previous park administrator liked to call it, ARF at the beach. The current status is that the construction was bid out, but there has been a pause due to COVID. So once the project starts back up again and once they get the okay to continue park projects again, they'll provide us with the new status update. Another question around the events was that cleanups will be allowed, but they're only limited to 10 people, and of course proper social distancing and masks are required. So stay tuned for more information on that. We're getting more information as things are starting to, restrictions are starting to ease. So hopefully we'll be able to all meet together in person soon. And we have a special announcement. We have word from the Rockaway Beach Civic that the Department of Transportation will be creating parking in front of the park. So yes, finally, we have someone come to speak to us more about that at the May Bar Call. But Karen, do you have any details you'd like to share with us? Oh, Karen, you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. We did, like you said, Zina, we did receive some really good news about parking. And a lot of the problem that may have risen is going to be addressed because it will be parking. They're trying to make it that it's going to be restricted to certain times. For instance, from midnight until 6 a.m., you would not be allowed to park there. So that would eliminate people parking there for days and days. So the good news is that we're looking out, the Civic is looking out for the best interest of the people who are going to use the park and not necessarily for people who are going to go and just dump their car there. So those signs hopefully will be coming up soon.
Okay, great. And then we will have somebody from the Rockaway Beach Civic come join us in May.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Okay, and then any other announcements, Karen, before we introduce our guests?
I don't know. I think that the great thing about the timing of this today's meeting is that there's been a lot of, people are the clock has changed. There'll be a lot more people coming into the park. The weather's getting a little bit better. I noticed that there's a lot of new puppies in the park because a lot of dogs were adopted recently. So I'm very excited about tonight's meeting.
Great. All right, and now I'd like to introduce our special guests. All three are from the Animal Care Centers of New York City. So you may remember Alex Silver from last month's Bark Hall. She's the Community Outreach and Engagement Manager. So welcome, Alex.
Hey, thank you.
And also, Alaina Halpin has been working with shelter dogs for about 10 years. Her journey began with caring for animal cruelty victims at her very first shelter. And she loved watching the behavioral journeys of these animals went through and was inspired to go into behavior herself. After graduating from a dog training school and completing her internship, she took some time to explore client dog training and teach group classes. But she missed working with shelter dogs so much, and that's what brought her to Animal Care Centers of NYC. So welcome, Alaina.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Of course. Alaina's also been at ACC. She's worked extensively in the behavior team to develop the organization's canine playgroup and enrichment programs. And she adopted her own dog from ACC, an energetic beagle mix named Scotch. Cindy Liu has been working at Animal Care Centers of NYC for nearly 8 years now and is currently the organization's Feline Behavior and Fear-Free Program Manager. She's learned about cats through working closely with them in the shelter throughout her career and reading lots of behavior articles. When she first became interested in cat behavior, she binge watched many episodes of Jackson Galaxy's My Cat from Hell. So welcome, Cindy. And if you have any questions for our guests, please post them in the comments. We'll ask them during the Q&A at the end. And to make it interesting, everyone who asks a question will get entered into a drawing to receive a prize, and we'll announce the winner at the end of the Q&A. So we've gotten a few requests to have a behaviorist come speak, and so we are very, very excited to have you all with us this evening. Who'd like to start first? Alaina? I think, Alaina, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. So should I start by explaining some of what we do at ACC or by answering some questions?
Why don't we start with what you do at ACC?
Absolutely. So at ACC, especially over the past few years, we spent a lot of time developing our canine enrichment program, and that includes a lot of different fun factors. We have a playgroup program where we have many different purposes for this program. So when we do have dogs that are compatible playmates with one another, we bring them out daily and we observe how they socialize with one another. At our care center, we actually have our very specific playgroup helper dogs, and these helper dogs are actually used to help other dogs in the shelter build their behavior and social skills around other dogs. And it also is a great evaluation tool that we use to help sometimes observe potential compatibility with other dogs outside of the care center, and we can relay this information to adopters, fosters, rescue groups. Our canine behavior program also entails enrichment. We hand out in-kennel enrichment to our dogs multiple times a day on a rotating schedule, and we also have out-of-kennel enrichment programs for our dogs, such as socialization. We do cue training with dogs so they can learn basic manners, and we also do conduct behavioral evaluations on our dogs where they include not just the owner history, but also a very brief handling assessment on our dogs to help us also come up with the best determinations to match our dogs to future homes. So here you'll actually see a photo of one of our long stay dogs that just got adopted, Lola, and this is her after she had been actually more nervous and fearful upon first arriving in the care center. She was very reluctant to come out of her kennel, and she made friends with us very slowly after we kind of just used a slow approach, treats, coaxing, and our very amazing and well-developed socialization methods to help make friends with her. And again, our enrichment program does consist of both in and out of kennel programs that help our dogs kind of stay very stimulated and engaged throughout their entire stay at the care center. And providing in-kennel enrichment can help do a lot of things. It keeps their mind very active at times where they might not necessarily be able to get out of their kennel. It can help prevent in-shelter deterioration, where you may see that dogs who are cooped up in their kennel for a long time, we might notice them begin to do things such as pace or whine, gnaw or lick at the kennel bars, and display typical symptoms of kennel stress. The more we're able to give them things to do in their kennel, the less likely these behaviors might actually occur, which is great. And we do custom tailor and take note of what each dog likes as an individual.
Did you want me to play these little videos here, or?
Some of them have fun examples of what these things are. We definitely don't have to play every single one. There's quite a few. Um, but I know the link to this video. I believe it's to a Brooklyn dog that is engaging in some of their favorite in-kennel enrichment. I think the best videos are the ones of the dogs playing in playgroups. But if anyone is curious as to what it looks like to have our dogs or what types of things we use in the kennel, it's definitely up to you.
Okay, so I'll move to the next slide then.
Sure. And then the same thing, providing out of kennel enrichment also is another way that we keep our dogs engaged and mentally stimulated. Out of kennel time is great for these guys. When we do provide out of kennel enrichment, we do take note of what their favorite activities are, whether it's playing ball, learning cue training, sometimes learning fun agility tricks. We keep these observations of all of our interactions with these dogs so that way they also go into our dog's record and we have more and more updated notes again to help learn more about them and provide better matchmaking for when the time comes for them to go to adoption, rescue, or foster. Again, time spent out of kennel can really, really, really help prevent the instance of in shelter deterioration or stress related behaviors that come with sometimes being housed in a close environment with other animals and lots of novel surroundings for a long time. And cue training. So uh, our cue training program is something that we've also developed more recently. Um, when our dogs come in, sometimes, we'll work with them and kind of see what they already know. And then we work with them each individually to see maybe what cues they would benefit from learning. We use solely positive reinforcement training. So we use the use of things that a dog likes, such as treats, toys, praise, and we use positive rewards in order to help dogs make positive associations with learning. And this is also something that can also help them, again, adjust into their forever homes too. It sometimes is also fun for adoption interactions, when dogs know something cute, such as knowing how to sit on cue, give paw on cue. Sometimes that's also something that really appeals for adopters. It also helps get them ready into their next chapter. Um, and these were just more videos of the cue training, but we can totally skip ahead to the next slide. I think that might be the playgroup slide. Okay, so these are some interesting videos. So our in-shelter playgroups, this is actually a program that started in the shelter more expanded, I want to say about 6 years ago now, maybe just over 6 years ago. And it's been one of our most fun, one of our most popular programs that our shelters have kind of been known for. So shelter playgroups can actually, again, provide a great number of benefits. It gets them out of their kennel. It can get multiple dogs out of the kennel at the same time, actually, which helps improve shelter operations. Multiple kennels can be cleaned at the same time. Again, dogs get to socialize and make new friends. They can learn very much from one another, and we learn a lot about them from watching them interact with one another. And again, we take into consideration notes from the previous home on what the previous owners might have to say about their behavior with other dogs. And we also use our observations to kind of create our own summary and our own recommendations of how we might feel this dog might succeed best with other dogs outside of the care center, or if they might prefer to be a single dog, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that as well. And so we have the playgroup videos. There's, if we wanted to play one of them, the one on the left, there's a video of two large dogs from Brooklyn. The one on the right, they are just two little bouncy, cute, small dogs from Manhattan. I'm not sure how like the YouTube client might work with this. Oh, here we go. So here we have a video of two dogs in Brooklyn. and they are engaging in some more cooperative play. They're bouncing around. I'm sorry?
Sorry, what can you tell us, like, what some of these cues are that shows us that they're playing well together?
Sure. So, in this case, you see these two. The video is a little choppy here, but I do remember this video. Um, in this particular video, you see these dogs. What's happening is one is soliciting the other. You see a lot of soft body language, hopping, uh, which we call solicitous behavior. When one dog moves away, the other dog is actually following behind him, which indicates that they want to continue this interaction. And also in this video, you see a lot of mimicking of one another's play behaviors, which means these dogs are staying very much engaged with one another and are interested in continuing the interaction. In that video, you don't see any type of stiffness, avoidance, anything like that. You just see two dogs who are actively soliciting one another, following one another and seeking out to continue the play, and at times even mimicking each other's social cues, which is actually a very healthy sign that we look for. And then this video of the two small dogs. This is a very rare occurrence sometimes in our small dog play group. You see the younger dog, the hound-looking dog, she's engaging what we call a play bow, and that is a very popular body language signal that a dog gives off the signal, hey, play with me. And her play partner is also not so much as active as her, but is staying engaged with her, does follow her around in that video. It was, again, a rare occurrence in small dog play group as we don't see them engage with each other as often, but they did have a great time together. So our behavior assessments, on the left side of the slide, I just included, it's a very popular image of just some dog body language and what they might mean. Each dog that comes into our care center receives a formal behavior assessment where we take into consideration the dog's history, if any, in combination with what we all observe about them in the care center, and a brief handling assessment that consists of their response to touch, um, running alongside their handler, and also their response to having a toy removed from their possession. Collectively, we learn more about this dog and their preferences, what they might be comfortable with versus what they might need more work on, and we use this to place them with a perfect match of a home. Each dog is taken on a short walk before their assessment, and we included this so that way we would also be able to get feedback even on things such as how hard this dog pulls on leash, if they might do better with a harness or a head halter. We also take note of what they might or might not react to outside, or if they're fearful of certain things on the street. And these are also notes that go into their behavior assessment as well.
Okay. Sorry about that. Cindy, go ahead. Tell us about Fear Free.
Okay, I'll start from the top. So Fear Free is basically a program in which we try to incorporate in the care centers to try to eliminate fear, anxiety, stress, and frustration for the animals in our care. So some of the things we try to do to eliminate this is using the power of cookies, which basically is offering treats no matter the interaction, even if it was a stressful one. So when our vet services team needs to examine an animal or give vaccinations, it's obviously going to be a very stressful process for all the animals because they're in an unfamiliar environment. They have unfamiliar people, stranger dangers, and they're being poked and prodded. So like even if that is a stressful process, we like to offer high value treats, and this could be biscuits, party mix treats, or like something of more higher value like tuna or like squeezed cheese. And like we just look into little things throughout the care center process that may be stressful to animals. For example, when cats come in, normally what we had before was people would place cats in carriers down low on the ground while they wait to be seen by our admissions team. But now we know that cats are very stressed out when they're down low, and they feel way better at higher vantage points. So what we've done is we've added little TV dinner trays in our lobbies, so that way we could elevate the cats so they have a higher vantage point and can survey their surroundings. Dogs nearby will most likely not be able to get to them. We try to offer separators so that we separate species. And if there are dogs barking in the hallway, we ask those clients to maybe take their dog on a walk or wait in their car. Just little things that will help minimize fear, anxiety, and stress in the care centers. Another thing that we do in the care centers is we try to ask staff and volunteers to be mindful of their approach when approaching animals. I know a lot of us, when we see cute animals, our first instinct is to just go up to them and cuddle them and give them all our love. But sometimes in an animal's perspective, that's actually even more stressful because they don't know you. They're just like, oh my God, I'm in this new environment. I'm freaked out. I don't know anybody. And so sometimes the more considerate approach is just leaving them be, giving them a hiding spot, and just offering treats until they feel comfortable enough to approach you on their own. We always like to give the animals the opportunity to approach us. And of course, sometimes we kind of need to test those boundaries if they've been kind of shut down a while. But we do generally like to give them the chance to warm up on their own and giving them a reason to like us, which is why we use the power of cookies. So they associate us with something positive, and we could build that positive association with the animals in our care. And so, yeah, that's basically what we look into in terms of like the way we ask staff to be mindful of their presence. But we also incorporate a lot of enrichment. And because part of being fear-free is having little happy mediums that they won't normally experience in the care center. So one of the things that I have my team do in terms of cat socialization is to play cat purring sounds on their phones while they're interacting with animals. Just hearing the sound itself is soothing to the cats, and it will help them in terms of like, being more comfortable with us. Because when they hear another cat self-soothing, they themselves feel better as well. And other practices we do is using calming pheromones. And calming pheromones are basically synthetic pheromones, man-made pheromones that we make to kind of mimic the chemical signals that animals give off. So for cats, we use feel away. For dogs, we use adaptal. And what we have staff and volunteers do is we'll spray ourselves with it. So wait a couple of minutes just to let the pheromone, settle in. And then we'll interact with the animals in our care in hopes that they associate us with the calming chemical cues that the pheromones give off. So those are just some examples that we do to try to minimize fear, anxiety, and stress in the care centers. But yeah, we try to look at new ways to help the animals acclimate and warm up to us in the care centers. Does anybody have questions about Fear Free? There's a bunch of stuff that we do. I don't know if I could talk about all of them.
Is there anything on the website that you want us to look at specifically?
On our website or the Fear Free website?
The Fear Free website.
Well, there's definitely a shelter program on the Fear Free website. I think it's free, but I'm not positive. But there's a lot of webinars that they give off, and they also have flyers that you can give to to clients, we've created our own to give to clients whenever they're thinking of bringing an animal to us, just to make the trip to our care center as fear-free as possible. Most people don't know to cover the cat's carrier when they're bringing the cat in, or sometimes when they're bringing a dog that's like very has a high arousal rate, they don't know to walk them outside while they wait and stuff like that. And another tip that we give to clients is to avoid feeding them before they're bringing the animal to our care centers, because that makes them hungry and we're more likely to accept treats that we offer them. So they definitely have a bunch of resources there that we could offer to clients. And I think they have a Fear-Free Homes one that we could give to adopters who adopted a new pet, to make sure that they're doing everything that they possibly can to help the animal warm up in their home.
Great. How about behavior resources on the ACC website?
So we have both feline and canine resources on there. I don't know if Alaina wants to speak about the dog stuff, but we have a bunch of most common asked questions in terms of cats. I feel like the biggest things that we get is litter box issues for cats, sometimes play aggression, or fearful behavior, because most of the time when cats come to arrive at their new home, they're kind of scared, they hide under the couch, and people are like, oh no, what am I supposed to do? So there's a bunch of resources there that people can read and learn more about the topic. And if they have additional questions, they'll reach out to the care center.
Okay, great. It's back up here. Here we go. So I think we're looking at your YouTube channel right now as well. Any ones that you think might be useful?
On our YouTube channel, we have actually a newer playlist. It's called Tips from the Team, and it is full of a bunch of different pre-recorded videos that we have demonstrations of us working with our dogs. We give advice on very common behavior obstacles, such as on-leash reactivity. We have demonstrations on how to work with dogs in basic cue training, and also just a lot of very basic FAQ type behavior obstacles that people come to us with. It's actually very new. We started it within the last year, and we had a lot of time to work with it, especially in the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And we're still also working on expanding this, but that is called the Tips from the Team playlist. We also have quite a few videos of our own dog-to-dog play groups, where we show some of our best healthy cooperative play between our dogs. Those are always a very, very fun watch as well.
Oh, I think you're muted.
I think you're muted.
Any other resources from ACC that you all might find interesting for everybody?
We also have our community pets program, and that is also something that can be found on our website, nycacc.org. And that is a lot of our giving back to the community with various resources, whether people might be in need of finding low-cost vet care or food from our food pantry. Another very interesting link we have links on how to volunteer, though that program is still kind of a little bit slowed down in the works in the midst of what's going on in the world. That's a program that we very much want to uplift and build up. And in addition to that, we also just have, again, our behavior resources, and also our links to our dogs that are available for adoption, our cats and our rabbits, and sometimes the occasional guinea pig. That's also a very wonderful thing to take a look at as well.
see, we don't have any questions, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them into the comments. We'll post them up for Alaina and Cindy to answer. So, Cindy, I know you had mentioned that you like to watch My Cat from Hell. That's one of your favorite shows. And with the lockdown right now, everybody's trying to figure out, things that they can do, things that they can watch. Do either of you have any other shows that you might recommend for dog behavior, or maybe some books that you might recommend?
The one book that I like to provide to people that just want to learn a little bit more about cat behavior is Think Like a Cat by Pamela, forgot her last name. But she has a website that's called catbehaviorassociates.com, and there's a bunch of different resources on there in terms of how to learn about play aggression and how to modify those behaviors, litter box aversion, all those kinds of things. So whenever somebody has questions about pet-induced aggression, I might give them a link on that website just so they learn why cats may develop pet-induced aggression and how to modify that behavior using treats or something positive for them.
Some of my favorites, I really enjoy anything by Karen Pryor. She has a lot of great books. She has a lot of great material on her own websites as well. And another thing that I like to consume, which this might be from more of a shelter perspective, but I also have been really enjoying looking at material from the Shelter Playgroup Alliance to learn more about dog play and how to develop our own playgroup programs. It's really helped us expand our programs and really kind of help us develop it to a point where we're able to even conduct even further types of dog-to-dog behavior assessments, or really help us make our dogs a little bit better. It's been very, very great. And we've even really been able to incorporate a lot of new learning methods and positive reinforcement learning methods into the playgroups, which is also something that we've enjoyed doing. But in terms of training and behavior resources, I highly recommend anything by Karen Pryor. We had the chance to also meet her a few years ago. She's very, very kind, and she is very, very smart.
And clicker training is awesome. You could also clicker train cats. And not a lot of people know that, because they're like, oh yeah, dogs are the ones that are trainable. But no, cats can be very well trained. I trained my cat to sit, lay down, and give high fives. But now he gets confused because whenever he sees treats, he does all three. So I need to work on a cue training with him. But yes, cats can very much be trained as well.
Have any questions? So far, we don't have anything coming in. I'm still looking through.
We clicker trained cats on how to give high fives in the care centers. So this is something that we worked with the Jackson Galaxy, a cat positive program. And so when people come by and they see these cats reaching out, they're like, oh my God, this cat chose me. And then they end up adopting the cat. We're like, that cat chose you, right?
That's really great. Let's see. Nothing in from the chat just yet. Again, if you have any questions for our presenters this evening, anything about play behavior or aggression or any other type of animal behavior, feel free to put it into the comments, and we will get those questions out to you. The other thing that I wanted to mention was we want to make this a little bit fun for everybody. So if you ask a live question, maybe this will entice some people to speak up, ask their questions. But if you do ask a live question, we will enter you into a drawing to win a prize. So if you have a question, maybe that will be just type it into the chat there. Okay, so nothing yet. But I guess maybe I will ask. So there's a couple of common phrases that we hear at the dog park, right? About specifically, like around play behavior, right? I guess one of them is, oh, they'll work it out. Alaina, Cindy, do you have any comments about, what is the best thing to do for your pets, especially at the dog park? And we want everybody to have a good time, an enjoyable time. What would you say to that?
So I could give a little bit of background on this. Dog parks can be a little bit tricky because you'll bring your dog there. Sometimes your own dog might have their favorite group of friends that come frequently, but very often we sometimes can't control every single dog that comes into the dog park or what comes with that. You've got a lot of different varying ages and temperaments and play styles going on at once. And a lot of people sometimes liken it to the personality differences of a bunch of children in the playground. Especially if you mix differently aged children, you might have a very young kid and a 12-year-old hanging out in there. They're not going to want to play with one another. So sometimes the best thing to do when entering a dog park environment is sometimes to very much just assess the situation, sometimes even before entering. The common phrase that the dogs will work it out is very much not the best rule to go by sometimes. Allowing two dogs to continue in a behavior that one or both may not enjoy can lead to an accidental scuffle, or sometimes accidentally teach dogs that inappropriate play behavior is okay. Some things I like to look out for before entering a dog park is certain things like the presence of toys. Toys hanging around a dog park, I would say, are absolutely sometimes the most common reason for a scuffle happening. Whether it's a toy that somebody brought in that day to play with their dog, or it's a toy that a dog dug up underneath the dirt. Staying very hyper vigilant of your surroundings is the best thing. When dogs are coming in and out of the dog park, whether you notice your dog engaging with the dog and that interaction is not going so smoothly, some things you want to look out for are avoidance. If one dog is approaching another and the other dog is trying to actively get away, the best thing to do is to try and recall your dog's attention, or maybe even if you're comfortable, asking the other dog's owner to recall their own dog's attention. Other things you want to look out for are dogs appearing, very tense, whale-eyed, even low-level warning signals such as growling or snapping. You don't want those to escalate into biting or an eventual scuffle. And again, it can be very, very hard to mitigate these situations because, again, you can't really control who comes in and out. Sometimes it might take going to a different dog park for that day, or sometimes even networking with the other owners of your dog's very best friends in that dog park, and maybe just setting up play dates elsewhere. But I want to say the number one thing that I like to look out for to signify healthy play is both dogs actively cooperating and engaging in one another. If one dog moves away and the other dog follows and they're still wanting to interact, that's a very good sign. Dogs mimicking each other's behaviors during play is also a very good sign sometimes, if they're both play vowing, if they're both wiggling and hopping and jumping around. Chase play, running back and forth, is sometimes something you want to look out for too. Running chase play can be fun, but you always want to make sure that the chaser is not scaring the chasee accidentally. And sometimes you want to make sure that the chaser doesn't turn into 6 different chasers and one dog being chased. I really strongly encourage every dog owner to be very aware of how their dog's behavior might be affecting the other dogs around them, and feel comfortable sometimes giving your dog a break from the dog park for the day, or recalling them back to you, or simply just walking them out for a break. What you're actually doing when you're giving your dog a break, even if they might not be engaging in the most appropriate play behaviors, is that you're actually teaching them that when they engage in inappropriate type play behaviors, they might not be able to actually continue engaging in the play. And the more you kind of work with them, as opposed to just letting them work it out, you're actually creating healthier play habits in your dog. And sometimes some dogs just aren't exactly dog park dogs. You might have a dog who frequented the dog park all the way from when he was a tiny puppy, and now he's 2 years old and he's not having it anymore. Again, that's kind of like the reference of, you put like a 12-year-old on a playground with little 5-year-olds, he's not going to have a great time. At that point, I say the best thing to do is, again, to just maybe network with some of the close friends that you made at the dog park. and other dogs that might play similarly to your dog, and maybe find another safe off-leash place where you can kind of have your dog continue to rehearse his social skills, but maybe not in an environment where it's so high traffic.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I think we're lucky at Freeway Dog Park that we have 3 separate sections that we can, that we can go into, and they're all really, really large.
That's awesome.
Hopefully once this kind of once we get back to normal, hopefully you're welcome to come visit us at the park, but maybe we'll have you guys come out for an event.
Oh, that's amazing.
Hopefully in the near future, and you guys can see what, like the huge space that we have. And so we're super, super lucky and super, super blessed to have it. Another question, is it better to, speaking of people in groups, right? Because we know that dog parks are not just for the dogs. Ultimately, it's also for the people, and we build friendships. And we've talked about this before in other bark calls, friendships and community. But is it better to just hang out and stand still or sit, or what do you recommend when people come to the park? Is it better to move around? Does that kind of help break things up? What are your thoughts about that?
I think it sort of depends. And it might just depend on, the dogs that are there. If you're hanging out, and I think, again, the biggest part of a dog park is just the culture of going to the dog park and intermingling. And I know so many people who, when they adopt a dog, it's very important that that dog likes other dogs, because that's the community that they want to engage in. And that's a very important thing to them. I think in terms of, people hanging out together at the dog park, it really depends on how the dogs engaging and play around you are responding. If the dogs are kind of clustering up underneath the owners and you think it's causing a little bit of tension, then definitely, disperse, walk around. Sometimes it is good, to walk around and keep your dog moving, and keep the flow, very active and just not all stuck in one spot, because that can also be something that might cause a little bit of tension amongst dogs. If everyone's sitting, right under their owner's legs, and, we're just innocently petting them, sometimes just kind of encouraging the dogs also to move around and walk around, and have space from one another and take those breaks. That can also just kind of help encourage just like a healthy flow within the dog park environment. But I say it really just kind of depends on what you observe. I've been in dog park situations where I've been there with people that I know very frequently, and we've been able to mingle and chat without a problem. The dogs are all playing, as long as you can keep your eyes on your dog and you're just very aware of what's going on. I think that's the safest thing.
Okay, that's really great. Let's see another thing that's commonly heard. Dogs have to be close to the same size to be good play buddies.
So this is a tricky one. I think typically, if you are not too particularly sure of how your dog might react to a dog that is a very different size for them, or they don't have too much experience intermingling between sizes, then it always is safer to start socializing with dogs of similar size. But this very much depends. In our own play groups, very seldomly, we've had small dogs play very, very well with large dogs. It's tricky in a situation where these are a bunch of dogs that we're not familiar with. If you're coming in with a very small dog and you're not very sure of how other large dogs might interact with them, or vice versa, sometimes there can be a bigger risk if a scuffle does happen, and that's just because of size difference. But again, this really will just depend on the dog as an individual. I've met large dogs that play very healthily with small dogs. I've met some small dogs that play way too rough for other small dogs and need to play with dogs a little bit bigger than them. Again, it's just kind of figuring out your dog, knowing your dog, and just assessing the overall play style. Again, sometimes in a dog park environment, it can be a little bit trickier if there are a few unknowns. A very large dog that maybe is not aware of his own size and strength can sometimes, accidentally knock around a smaller dog sometimes. So that's just always a thing you want to kind of take into consideration before intermingling sizes in a group of dogs that you might not be too familiar with. Sometimes the best thing is to kind of get a feel for it, of how your dog plays with different size dogs, sometimes not in a completely novel environment, but maybe again in like smaller groups or less active hours. But again, it just really, really depends. I think that dogs of the same size can make great play buddies, but sometimes dogs of different sizes, they want to be friends. And as long as both dogs are safe and happy, that's absolutely okay as well.
It's all really, really great information. I guess last thing you hear at the dog park, or something that's common is because a dog is growling, it means they're aggressive.
So this is kind of here and there. Growling can be a signal of, the potential to tip into aggression, but growling occurs in a lot of different instances. Growling can be a warning signal from one dog to another to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, leave me alone. Growling can sometimes also be symptomatic of offensive aggression. If a dog is growling in response to something they're seeing, and posturing themselves to come closer and potentially escalate further. But then again, growling and vocalizations are something that also happen during play. And this is sometimes where it gets very tricky to know whether or not a situation that begins as play is escalating, or if it's turning into something that might become a little bit uncomfortable. I think the best thing that you can always do is pay attention to the body language that accompanies any vocalization or anything that you hear, whether it's barking, growling, anything like that. When dogs are playing, play growls are often a little bit different because they're usually happening alongside a very specific type of body language. They're happening along with dogs who might be running, displaying softer, what we call a looser body language. They might be wrestling, tumbling. If you see that growling starting to occur with, body language stiffening, maybe hackles getting raised, snapping, and things like that, that's a sign that that growling is probably escalating into something that's very much not safe and not okay. I always err on the side of caution sometimes when it comes to vocalizations. If you're not sure, the best thing to do is, really to just remove your dog from the situation, and maybe just reassess what went on and assess your dog's comfort level, their behavior during and afterward, before deciding what to do next. Because again, growling, though I think most frequently you do see it in part as a warning signal to maybe give off to other dogs to stop engaging in certain behaviors. Or again, you might see it as a part of more offensive type reactivity. Again, you might see it as a part of play, and it's kind of sometimes a learning experience. But again, always err on the side of caution. If you're not sure what the vocalization is, if you're not sure if the growling is a part of play or a part of potential warning signals or offensive type aggression, I always encourage people to just maybe cut off the interaction, consider what was going on, and then making a plan from there, as opposed to just letting it go on if you're not sure. The best thing to always do for everyone is to just keep your eyes on the situation, and anything that, even if you're not sure about it, maybe just cut it off and try again in a situation that maybe is even a little bit more controlled. There are some dogs also that, they might start off playing, and their growling and vocalizations might be because the type of play they're engaging in is just getting them a little bit too overly aroused or a little bit too worked up. There are some dogs that actually just might succeed better with different play partners that might not bring out certain types of over arousal or behaviors from them. And, it's important that we keep an eye on these guys and set them up to succeed with appropriate play partners.
That's really good information. So I understand your registration is open for your May foster orientations. And Cindy, what do you think the best way to introduce a cat to a dog family is?
I think Alaina and I both might be able to answer this question. But the best thing to do, it really depends on which is the newcomer coming in. If you have a cat, then the best thing to do is just to separate them into a room that has all their essentials. So litter box, food, water, cat tree, and lots of calming pheromones, toys, all that stuff. So that way they feel comfortable. And what I usually recommend they do is like have some type of barrier, whether it's baby gate, a mesh screen, or something like that. And when you're walking the dog in, we try to distract the dog with something of high value, so they're not like focused on the cat and like start barking or growling. So giving them a high value treat to focus on the opposite end of the room that the cat is currently being enclosed in, and then offering the cat tons of treats. So stuff that they find of high value. If they go up to the screen to sniff or investigate, then I reward them for that. And kind of like go about this situation by giving both of them rewards. If the dog tends to focus on the cat, then we try to distract them with something. The dog should always be on a close leash. And not like, able to get to the gate or jump over the gate or stuff like that. So somebody should definitely be monitoring the dog and also distracting the dog whenever they're not focused on the cat. And I think those are the best ways to introduce the animals together. And of course, this is over a long period of time, making sure that both dogs and the cat is displaying calm, relaxed postures before actually giving them physical access to one another, and removing the baby gate altogether. And even when that gate is removed, people should still monitor both animals together and offer the cats lots of vertical space. So that way, if the dog is ever inside the cat space, the cat has the opportunity to escape to a safe route and they don't feel like they're in danger.
Karen, any final questions? I don't see anything that's come in.
Well, thank you. I want to say so much for being here tonight with us. I know that this information it's just invaluable because I think we all make a lot of mistakes, unfortunately. It's something I'm seeing a lot now when I visit the park is, myself included, we have our dogs with us, but sometimes we forget that they're dogs. And I think we do things that maybe we wouldn't necessarily do. And, we think of them as kids sometimes, I think. And I think that sometimes when I have my dog with me, I am like, go play, forcing them to play. And I just want to know if I'm making a mistake doing that.
I think it depends. I think it's great to bring your dog somewhere and feel highly enthusiastic about them socializing and making friends and having kind of a little social life of their own.
Right.
I think that the best thing to just always keep in mind is just how your dog is responding once they're there. If they look like they want to be there, they're running around, they're making friends, they're excited about it. That's awesome. If they look like they're maybe not so much in the mood, sometimes maybe taking a break, walking around separately and maybe seeing if a different group of dogs might appeal to them or if they need a break for the day, then that's completely fine. But, of course, I think it's always great to be enthusiastic about your dog having, again, their own circle of friends and your dog having successful interactions and your dog having, again, like their own social life. I think that is a big part of the joy of owning a dog for some people is just kind of watching them, have fun and have a life of their own. I think all of us sometimes, we get very enthusiastic and then sometimes our dogs might not match our enthusiasm. Right. There's been times where I've been so excited, to take my dog outside for a walk. And then sometimes he's going outside and he's just not feeling it that day. I just work within, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't interrupt. I thought you were done.
It's okay.
Do you think my dog wants to be at the park? If she is, I'm asking this for everybody. If your dog is what is a good sign that your dog is stressed out at the park?
I think a pretty good sign that your dog might be stressed out at the park is if they are maybe just clinging by you, avoiding the activity that's going on, maybe appearing more small and curled up, stress panting, maybe constantly seeking an exit or standing by the door. Those are some common signs that I usually get from a dog, that they're not really wanting to be a part of the play circle at this time, that they might rather leave. And sometimes you'll see it where certain dogs, on some days, they might be super with it, and on other days, they might be displaying that desire to kind of just exit the dog park that day. And it could be for any number of reasons. It could be for the weather. It could be because of the type of play and activity that's going on. The more that we're able to kind of respect our dog signals for when they want to leave, it helps keep the dog park or anything a more positive experience when we kind of work within their thresholds and body language. Because when they know that they have choices, then it kind of helps them feel a little bit more comfortable in those situations, as opposed to if they feel like, they have to stay somewhere where they don't particularly want to be. If your dog knows that, hey, if I'm stressed out, I know, mommy will remove me from here, that's actually kind of sending them a better signal. But those are the most common behaviors I see.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
I know we're coming up on time. I know we're actually over time, but because of the technical difficulties, we stayed on just a little bit longer. I really want to thank everybody for joining. Alaina, Cindy, Alex, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was a lot of really good information. Everybody stay tuned for the replay. We'll get it a little bit cleaned up, and we'll shorten it up a little bit, but this was all really great information. And I know Alex sent us a whole bunch of links that we will post along with the replay. Any final thoughts from either our presenters or from Karen? Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Alaina, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I think my mic went off because my dog's chewing something behind me. But he loves to do this. He always knows. But thank you so much for having us here tonight. Ditto.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for everything that you all do to help the city's animals. It's very, very much appreciated. All right. Well, I guess that's it for tonight then. So tune in next month. We will have a veterinary expert. So ACC will be back with us next month to talk about pet care and spay-neuter. And as we announced earlier, our May Bark Haul will be taking place on May 25th. That will be a little bit more about parking at Freeway Dog Park. So if you have any questions, please feel free to place them, to send them to us. If you have any questions or suggestions for future bark calls, please always, as always, reach out to us at arfarfrockaway@gmail.com. And hope everybody has an excellent night. Be safe and be well.
Thank you, Zena. Thanks, ladies.